You guys begged for a part 2 video on Pumpkin Night, so of course, I gotta deliver. If y'all haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend watching that first, but a quick summary, Pumpkin Night is a horror slasher series about a girl named Naiko going on a revenge massacre on the students that bullied her. She would go around in a schoolgirl's uniform and a pumpkin mask, calling herself Pumpkin Night. When she dies, a boy named Kazuya, who secretly loved her, went insane and started taking up the mantle of Pumpkin Night, finishing the job by killing the rest of the bullies. In the end, Kazuya went to a mental hospital while Naiko was rising from the grave. The series is known for being really gory and having amazing art, but the series was ruined for me due to its poor character development with the group of bullies and for the really cringy translations from the fan translator. So today, we'll be going over part 2 and see if the story gets better or if somehow it gets even worse.
But if you guys want to see more anime content like this one, then why not go down and hit that subscribe button.
Also, we now have a Discord server, so join for some future events and to get announced for videos, live streams, and merch. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. A grandfather is traveling with his assistant, discussing family and business matters, when suddenly the assistant's head is blown apart, causing screams to erupt into the car. The grandfather turns to see Pumpkin Night on a motorcycle, aiming a shotgun at them. She fires again, hitting the driver in the cheek, sending the car out of control. The vehicle crashes into a drill, tearing the car and the passenger apart. Pumpkin Night leaps onto the car and confronts the grandfather, demanding to know why he killed a mother and daughter and escaped going to jail. She stabs him in the face with the spiked handle of her shotgun, causing blood to gush out like a fountain. Pumpkin Night is back. Meanwhile, the detective from part 1 is digging up Naiko's grave to confirm her death, only to find the body missing. A hooded up figure stands behind them, and it turns out to be Naiko with her face miraculously restored. She flees and the detective gives chase, injuring his ankle in the process. The pursuit leads to an old mansion, but a guard dog prevents him from entering. From a window, Naiko watches but doesn't remember who the man was. A doctor checks on her, revealing that her face is rotting. A year earlier, Naiko had clawed her way out of her grave and encountered the doctor while he was walking his dog. He took her home and performed a grueling 10-hour surgery to heal her. Once she was restored, he turned her back into Pumpkin Night, and together, they became a vigilante duo, killing those who committed crimes but evaded punishment. The detective visits Kazuya, who has been in a vegetative state in a mental hospital for a year. The detective rouses him up by mentioning Naiko is alive. Now, they must join forces to stop her. While walking outside the mansion, Naiko recalls moments with Kazuya. She encounters the detective and tries to kill him, but he mentions Kazuya's name, triggering her memories back. She asks where Kazuya is and fears that he might be in a certain hospital. At the mental hospital, Kazuya receives visitors, including the hospital owner, Trump's wife, and Naruto's mother, Sae Kuroki, the woman who tortured Naiko in the asylum. Naiko stabs the detective in the hand and escapes, ignoring the doctor's attempts to stop her. She runs him over with a motorcycle and rides off into the distance to save Kazuya. Now, to be nice, I really did like the intro to this part. It perfectly shows how the rest of the series is gonna go. Just a lot of creative gore, amazing art, and some really cringy dialogue that I'll talk about later. I didn't know how they would continue the story after ending part 1. It just seemed like a perfect way to end the entire series, and my initial thought was that a part 2 and 3 are not really necessary, that adding too much to a story would just ruin it. However, I will say I was happy with the way that they did continue the series so far. I like the switch to a vigilante duo, but that was cut pretty short and then it just transitioned to the main plot of rescuing Kazuya from the mental hospital. I like that the detective is still in the story because in the last part he was basically just useless. He didn't really do anything to impact the story. If he was there throughout the entire investigation, I feel like I would have liked him way better, but in this part, he does play a bigger role. He is the trigger, he is the reason for the next plot, so hopefully we get more character development from him in the future. But that being said, the doctor did just seem like a throwaway character. As fast as he got introduced, he got cut off even faster. It's an appropriate ending for him, but I would have liked to see if he impacted the future, like in any way. And now to the translations. They're still pretty cringy. There is a ton of British slang and terms that were barely seen in part 1. And then now all of a sudden everyone has a British accent. Everyone says bruv, blimey, tyke. It's the same reason why I hated it in part 1. It turns a serious moment into a joke when the original creator didn't intend it to be a joke. Something similar happened to Chainsaw Man back in Brazil when it was just coming out. A fan translated the scans but used more slang and puns to better fit the audience. However, that also included a lot of Nazi jokes and a lot of jokes to social ideals. So it distorted the way that Brazilians thought of Chainsaw Man. And the same exact thing was happening to us with Pumpkin Night. But at least there's not any more, N-words just dropped in out of nowhere. But even then, why would you need to add that? Me and my script editor were just laughing at how bad and cringy most of these pages were. It was unbelievable, but sadly that's just the image of what Pumpkin Night is now. The story continues with Kazuya, beaten up by fellow prisoners, smiling through the pain, confident that Pumpkin Night will come for them. Outside, Pumpkin Night breaks into the mental hospital, killing the night guard and ripping his face off. She then brutally murders a group of prisoners while Sae watches from the rooftop. The staff panic, but Sae is confident that she knows Naeko's weakness. Naeko skips to the entrance of the hospital and finds her old friend Miss Ayumi tied to a dolly. Ayumi begged her to run away, but prisoners pin her down and inject her with a tranquilizer. Sae appears and reveals that Ayumi is Naeko's former psychologist, who had helped her escape the hospital through her own methods. Sae locks Naeko in a rehabilitation room and tortures her with electricity, but Naeko only seems to enjoy it. Frustrated, she injects her with meth. Meanwhile, the detective visits the critically injured doctor. The doctor reveals that Naeko's story has become famous, and people have been hacking into the police files to find more information about her. The detective leaves with his new partner, planning to use his trump card. The hospital staff take Naeko for an MRI scan, but she escapes, killing off a staff member. We flash back to when Ayumi realized that Naeko wasn't crazy, she was just bullied, and used Kazuya to give her hope. Sae learns of Naeko's escape and releases a monstrous man-baby to stop her. Naeko manipulates the man-baby into thinking she's his mother, and then comes up with a plan for the man-baby to attack the shutters, creating an escape route. The scene shifts to the detective visiting Yuri, a hacker obsessed with Pumpkin Night. Dressed up as Pumpkin Night, Yuri agrees to help hack the hospital's security system. Back at the hospital, Naeko tries to escape through the damaged shutters, but she gets stuck, and the man-baby attacks her. The man-baby is just about to kill her until she utters the name Shingo, shocking Sae, who believes Naeko can now speak to the dead. The doctor explains to the police that Naeko was dead for a week before returning with the ability to communicate with the dead. Shingo, moved by Naeko's words, opens the shutters for her. As a final move, Sae attempts to release carbon dioxide, but Yuri's hacking redirects the gas, protecting Naeko and then guiding her to Kazuya. Now, I don't really know how to feel about Naeko getting a superpower to contact the dead. It seems out of nowhere, it doesn't feel earned, and the series doesn't really hint at anything supernatural happening except for maybe the ending of part 1. I will say though that this was a little bit better than the intro. There's no real horror or tension anymore, it's just a gore fest. The detective's part is not that interesting, however it is fun to know that Naeko has built a following with people because the only reason she became like this was because of bullying, and a lot of people just feel bad for her. But you also see the extremists of the group, like the doctor and Yuri, who finds the killings and brutality to be justice. It's interesting to see how the events that occurred in part 1 affects not just the characters, but the entire world. I think Trump's wife Sae is an interesting villain. She uses tactics and traps to outsmart Naeko, and it's a good follow-up from a villain that just uses political power. Plus, she has a good motive on why she's doing these things. I mean, they killed her son and husband, I understand. Yuri and Shingo are like fine characters. Yuri is more important to the plot, while Shingo is just there to be a threat. Also, I'm glad that the cringy dialogue has lowered since the last 2 volumes. There are less jokes made, and the British accents seem to have just gone away. There are still some stupid quotes said here and there, and the only ones that are fine saying these stupid stuff are Naiko, Kazuya, and Yuri, because all 3 seem to be mentally unstable and childish, so it makes sense for them to say stuff like scrumptious and cheese and crackers, not a 30-year-old doctor saying stuff like hootin' tootin'. Again, I don't like the supernatural stuff. It doesn't make any sense why she was chosen to come back to life. It would have made a lot better sense if she was revived by the doctor, but if it does get into more supernatural stuff, I just hope that it goes all out with it. Naiko and Shingo rampage through the hospital until Naiko senses a familiar presence and orders Shingo to stop. Emerging from behind a group of prisoners is a bloodied up Kazuya. The scene shifts to Yuri and the detective, where Yuri reveals the hospital's dark secret, a super soldier program that brainwashes prisoners and gives them superhuman enhancements. Originally intended for healing illnesses, Trump's involvement turned the project into a military weapon. Kazuya enters carrying a prisoner's head and brutally murdering the remaining prisoners. She realizes that this isn't the Kazuya that she remembers. When Kazuya charges at Naiko, Shingo defends her, but Kazuya blinds Shingo by stabbing him in the eyes. Sae had tortured and brainwashed Kazuya into believing that Naiko was his enemy, setting the stage for a showdown, Pumpkin Night versus Pumpkin Night. Kazuya viciously attacks Naiko, who refuses to fight back. As he breaks her ankle, he begins to cry and remember who she is, while Yuri watches with tears in his eyes. Suddenly, phones everywhere starts buzzing. Everything happening at the hospital is being broadcasted live. As Naiko and Kazuya embrace, Sae makes her move. Shingo sees a shadowy figure behind Kazuya, who snaps back into aggression and tries to strangle Naiko. She also sees the figure, and it turns out to be Naruto, who reveals that the electric currents in Kazuya's brain are making him attack her. Naruto offers Kazuya an ultimatum: kill Naiko, or kill the controlling nerve in his brain, which will kill him and allow Naruto to possess his body. Kazuya chooses to cut the nerve, but Shingo punches him in the side of the head, snapping him out of the fog as Naruto's spirit fades away. Naiko, Shingo, and Kazuya head towards Sae. Meanwhile, the staff attempt to escape via the elevators, but Yuri has locked them out and unleashed all of the prisoners. Sae, unfazed, is on a phone call. The trio rescues Ayumi, but as they walk together, Ayumi's head is blown off. A group of military men storms in, killing several prisoners. Yuri explains that Sae is a secret agent from an organization called FARMS, which holds 80% of the military's and government's secrets, aiming to build superhumans. A helicopter attacks Yuri's mansion, but the group manages to escape. Kazuya and Shingo fight the military men, while Sae initiates Plan B. Naruto appears to his mother, urging her to stop, admitting that he bullied Naiko out of fear and now regrets it. As he melts away, Sae cancels her plans and lets Naiko and Kazuya go. The detective and Yuri reunite with Naiko and Kazuya, eventually taking them to Okinawa Island, where they live out their dream. However, Kazuya's condition worsens. His brain is breaking down slowly with no cure in sight. Yet, there might just be a way for Naiko and Kazuya to stay together forever. Now again, to start off with the positives, I like the fight scenes with Naiko and Kazuya. The brainwashing makes sense, plus the visuals and brutality just look really cool. I also like that Sae is again showing off her plays, her strategies. She had planned this out for this exact occasion. Yeah, that's pretty much all of my positives. I don't like the superhuman program. It just seems unnecessary. Already we have Naiko and Kazuya doing basically superhuman things without the enhancements. And we know they haven't gotten any enhancements because Sae flat out said so. So Shingo could have just been another really big guy without the enhancements, and to be honest, it would have just been the same. I said in the last section that if they were going to do more supernatural stuff, that they should just go all out. But they fumbled. The appearance of Naruto was cool. It was like a nice little cameo, but I was thinking the reason he showed up was because of Naikos' power. But no, Shingo could see him, and Kazuya just flat out talked to Naruto. And even then at the end, Naruto went up to his mom and talked to her. So he was just a ghost that just randomly showed up to help, which was also really weird. Like, there was no hint at Naruto ever feeling remorse for Naiko and Kazuya. He flat out just went insane and murdered his best friend out of nowhere, and now he comes back and says that he only bullied Naiko because he was afraid of her? Like, what? When was this ever established? He bullied her because he wanted to. I understand you could feel regret and you can change, but there was never any hint of humanity left in Naruto at the end of part 1. How could Naruto tell that she was special when she didn't have any powers when she was alive in middle school? And this isn't a translation issue. This is a narrative issue, you know? The problem is that the original creators definitely didn't have an ending for this series. They may have had an ending for part 1, but they probably weren't even thinking of doing a part 2 or 3, which also leads to something that I haven't mentioned. I didn't stop at the ending. There are still like 30 to 40 chapters left for just part 2, as the creators have announced part 3 on chapter 122. The way that I ended this video felt a lot better than what they probably had in store in the next 30-40 chapters later. Oh, and about the translations, the person that was translating the series quit, and so we now have new translators just picking it up and then dropping it. But you know what? At least we don't have to sit through any more racist jokes or really cringy dialogue. I had no expectations when I decided to read part 2. It definitely left a weird impression on me because it certainly has its highs and lows. The art is always amazing. The gore, visuals, and fight scenes continue to keep the audience entertained. Honestly, compared to part 1, the art and the gore have just improved exponentially. There is a lot more creative kills and there is a lot more gore. However, the series struggles with its narrative choices and character development. The introduction of supernatural elements in a superhuman program feels kind of forced, and it detracts from the grounded horror of the original series. The new characters added are fine. The only really good characters like the villain, the detective, and then obviously the 2 pumpkin knights. The inconsistent translations and cringy dialogue just further diminish the experience, making it really hard to take the story seriously at times. Despite the flaws though, I did find a little bit of enjoyment, and I bet a lot of you guys did too. So if y'all want a part 3 video, then just comment down below. But as we move towards part 3, here's hoping that the creators can find a more cohesive and satisfying direction for the series. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go join our Discord server, the link will be in the description below. And if you want more horror, anime, and manga videos, then why not hit that subscribe button. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.